Welcome to Sanctuary News. I'm Rainbow. Congratulations on living in interesting times. The very first thing I want to do is thank Sanctuary News' own Alexander. He has set us up with an incredible website for posting these stories that we're covering at www.ifican'tdanceclub.wordpress.com. Please go there and get additional coverage of some of the stories I'm about to cover and many others. Thank you so much, Alexander, for putting so much work in. You are an amazing person. Up first, Donald Trump invokes the Alien Enemies Act. I know this is supposed to be a local show, but this really does affect everyone here as well. The Alien Enemies Act is a law from 1798 that allows the president to arrest, relocate, or deport any male over the age of 14 from a country that we are at war with or being invaded by. It was used during World War II to send Japanese Americans to concentration camps. Currently, it's being used to send people that the U.S. government claims are members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua to a super prison in El Salvador. I guess because we claim that several hundred people that may or may not be in a gang constitutes an invasion. Also, I guess they can just call whoever they want a terrorist organization now. Back in February, they classified multiple cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. So we all know what rules have been around how we're allowed to treat terrorists also. ICE has admitted that some of these people don't have criminal records, at least in the United States. Actually, I don't know anything about who these actual people are. Kind of like the New York Times doesn't know. I guess they were all over 14. What a relief. U.S. District Judge James Boasberg issued a court order to temporarily block the deportations, but this was ignored by Trump. On X, the Everything app, El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele, posted, "Oopsie, too late." And then the United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio retweeted that. Crying, laughing emoji. Trump has called for Boasberg to be impeached, and Representative Brandon Gill of Texas has gone ahead and introduced articles of impeachment. That doesn't mean that the judge will be impeached, but, you know, people are doing what Trump says. On the side of the courts, I guess the U.S. Marshals are supposed to enforce court orders. I really don't see that happening. Also, the Supreme Court ruled last year that Trump can't be held civilly or criminally liable for maybe anything. Oopsie. What I'd like you to take away from this story is to be careful and watchful out there. And if you see something happening to someone, do something about it. Do something. At the very least, record it. Confront this, though. I mean, you could be driving down the street and like have a brake light out, and then all of a sudden be on a plane to El Salvador for the crime of like looking like a gang member. Be safe and keep each other safe. All right, measles update. Measles cases across Texas, New Mexico, and Oklahoma have risen to over 300. And Midland now has its first reported measles case as of yesterday morning. Measles is highly contagious and is very dangerous for babies and young children. The best way to protect them is to vaccinate them as soon as it's time to, and to get vaccinated yourself. If you don't know your vaccine status, it is usually safe to get a booster. So talk to your providers about that. Go to www.ifican'tdanceclub.wordpress.com for an excellent story on this by the aforementioned Alexander. Also dangerous to babies and young children, ICE. A 10-year-old American citizen with brain cancer was deported along with her family. All 8 members of the Hernandez Garcia family, 5 of whom are American citizens, were deported while on the way to a medical checkup. The family had been living, working, paying taxes, and simply being a part of their community. They were detained. The children were searched. They were called slurs, and they were deported. The Texas Senate has passed a ban on all forms of THC in accordance with Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick's wishes. He called THC a poison and said that our number one responsibility is life and death issues. THC-related deaths do not feature on any lists I could find of causes of death in Texas. And a majority of Texans would like to see weed decriminalized. I guess he didn't talk to them, though. He did speak to House Speaker Dustin Burrows, Lubbock's representative, and Governor Greg Abbott, saying we're all on the same page. We're going to protect the people of Texas from THC. I don't know about y'all, but this really rubs me the wrong way. I think the people of Texas as pretty able to make these kinds of decisions for themselves. I don't need these guys to be my dad. Maybe call them up and tell them that you don't need them to be your dad either. In late January, President Trump signed an executive order which sought to prohibit transgender people from enlisting or serving in the military. During February, the Pentagon paused transgender enlistments and gender-affirming procedures and had outlined plans to discharge current trans service members. This policy faced immediate legal challenges from trans service members and advocacy groups who argued it violated constitutional equal protection rights. On Tuesday, U.S. District Judge Ana C. Reyes ruled in favor of the plaintiffs, halting the policy's implementation. A victory. That's really all I've got right now. Not because that's all of it, but because that is all I can really do. This shit wipes me out. It makes me feel sad. It overwhelms me. But I'm going to keep it up and do what I can. Because I'm fine. Because I'm fine. Look where I am. Nothing is wrong right here. Plenty of people have real things wrong right now with their situations they've been placed in. One of whom is Mahmoud Khalil, who was arrested March 8th and is still being detained. The following is the statement he dictated over the phone to his family, who passed it along to the media. We haven't changed anything. My name is Mahmoud Khalil, and I am a political prisoner. I'm writing to you from a detention facility in Louisiana, where I wake to cold mornings and spend long days bearing witness to the quiet injustices underway against a great many people precluded from the protections of the law. Who has the rights to have rights? It is certainly not the humans crowded into the cells here. It isn't the Senegalese man I met who has been deprived of his liberty for a year, his legal situation in limbo, and his family an ocean away. It isn't the 21-year-old detainee I met who stepped foot in this country at age 9, only to be deported without so much as a hearing. Justice escapes the contours of this nation's immigration facilities. On March 8th, I was taken by DHS agents who refused to provide a warrant and accosted my wife and me as we returned from dinner. By now, the footage of that night has been made public. Before I knew what was happening, agents handcuffed and forced me into an unmarked car. At that moment, my only concern was for Noor's safety. I had no idea if she would be taken too, since the agents had threatened to arrest her for not leaving my side. The DHS would not tell me anything for hours. I did not know the cause of my arrest or if I was facing immediate deportation. At 26th Federal Plaza, I slept on the cold floor. In the early morning hours, agents transported me to another facility in Elizabeth, New Jersey. There I slept on the ground and was refused a blanket despite my request. My arrest was a direct consequence of exercising my right to free speech as I advocated for a free Palestine and an end to the genocide in Gaza, which resumed in full force Monday night. With January's ceasefire now broken, parents in Gaza are once again cradling 2 small shrouds, and families are forced to witness starvation and displacement against bombs. It is our moral imperative to persist in the struggle for their complete freedom. I was born in a Palestinian refugee camp in Syria to a family which has been displaced from their land since the 1948 Nakba. I spent my youth in proximity to, yet distant from my homeland, but being Palestinian is an experience that transcends borders. I see in my circumstances similarities to Israel's use of administrative detention, imprisonment without trial or charge to strip Palestinians of their rights. I think of our friend Omar Khatib, who was incarcerated without charge or trial by Israel as he returned home from travel. I think of Gaza hospital director and pediatrician Dr. Hussam Abu Safia, who was taken captive by the Israeli military on December 27th and remains in an Israeli torture camp today. For Palestinians, imprisonment without due process is commonplace. I have always believed that my duty is not only to liberate myself from the oppressor, but also to liberate my oppressor from their hatred and fear. My unjust detention is indicative of the anti-Palestinian racism that both the Biden and Trump administrations have demonstrated over the past 16 months as the U.S. has continued to supply Israel with weapons to kill Palestinians and prevented international intervention. For decades, anti-Palestinian racism has driven efforts to expand U.S. laws and practices that are used to violently repress Palestinians, Arab Americans, and other communities. That is precisely why I'm being targeted. While I await legal decisions that hold the futures of my wife and child in the balance, those who enabled my targeting remain comfortably at Columbia University. Presidents Shafiq Armstrong and Dean Yauri Milo laid the groundwork for the U.S. government to target me by arbitrarily disciplining pro-Palestinian students and allowing viral doxing based on racism and disinformation to go unchecked. Columbia targeted me for my activism, creating a new authoritarian disciplinary office to bypass due process and silence students criticizing Israel. Colombia surrendered to federal pressure by disclosing student records to Congress and yielding to the Trump administration's latest threats. My arrest, the expulsion or suspension of at least 22 Columbia students, some stripped of their BA degrees just weeks before graduation, and the expulsion of SWC President Grant Minor on the eve of contract negotiations are clear examples. If anything, my detention is a testament to the strength of the student movement in shifting public opinion toward Palestinian liberation. Students have long been at the forefront of change, leading the charge against the Vietnam War, standing on the front lines of the civil rights movement, and driving the struggle against apartheid South Africa. Today, too, even if the public has yet to fully grasp it, it is students who steer us toward truth and justice. The Trump administration is targeting me as part of a broader strategy to suppress dissent. Visa holders, green card carriers, and citizens alike will be targeted. We'll all be targeted for their political beliefs. In the weeks ahead, students, advocates, and elected officials must unite to defend the right to protest for Palestine. At stake are not just our voices, but the fundamental civil liberties of all. Knowing fully that this moment transcends my individual circumstances, I hope nonetheless to be free to witness the birth of my firstborn child. God, Alexander Hermel. Is it French?